So part of the reason why I rarely make videos anymore is because my house is just pure chaos. Like my dog, there's a movie on, there's yelling kids, and I just felt like it would be way too distracting to try and listen to me make a video, but you know what, whatever. I feel like everyone's house is chaos, right? Everyone, right? No? Everyone's life is a little bit chaos right now, so whatever. Let's ignore the barking dogs and kids in the movie in the background. And let me show you how to rip up beadwork. This center part, I dislike. I want to tear that center part out and redo it with something else, but I don't want to disturb these elements on the side. I kind of like those, or the bottom part. I just want to rip out the center part only. So I'm going to show you how to rip out beadwork without disturbing other elements. I hope you find this video helpful. Let's go downstairs to my workshop where it's a little bit quieter. Welcome to my workshop. Let me just make sure I'm recording. Okay, I am. This is like my third time trying to record this. I recorded quite a bit of this video and it was going really well, so I thought, except for the fact that I was off camera the whole time. So let's try this again. This is a seam ripper. This is basically what I'm using to rip out all of this beadwork. I don't know if you can see this little notch right here. This is a little like sharp edge that's really going to easily cut old threads. If you don't have a seam ripper, I think I got this on Amazon. You can find them on Amazon or like craft stores, sewing shops. Scissors works just the same. It's just a little bit harder to shimmy that underneath. So let me explain what I'm doing here. Basically, I'm just ripping out this middle section. You take your seam ripper, you go underneath, and see, this is the stringer. This is the string that strung all the beads on, and that's the one I want to rip. The tacker string, see all those little like tacked strings that are down? Those are going to stay there. You don't need to cut all of those. We'll eventually bead back over top of those. So basically, I'm just taking my seam ripper and cutting these old strings underneath. Wow, let's not stab myself. Okay, and this is going to get messy. So be careful not to cut the part that I don't want to cut. And you can see that now I am able to take off all these old beads and hopefully get them in the bowl. And then say I rip off this whole row. All of these strings are, we don't want those there, but we also don't want to cut them off in case that they're connected to parts that I want to stay beaded. So here's the tricky part when it comes to ripping out beadwork is you got to find the old strings on the back. Let me see. This seam ripper is kind of difficult, but you kind of just want to poke through where you think that string came from. Yeah, the seam ripper is way too big to be doing this and like cutting my... Okay, that one already was attached to a knot, but I just pulled it out. So let's find another one. Let me rip this one out. Let's see where that string in the back is coming from. Let's see, where's a needle? I feel like a needle would work better than that seam ripper. Okay, so this is the string that I want to find on the back. I just kind of poke it through, and it looks like it's coming from, I don't know if you can see that, right about there. So I look and I pull on different strings to see if it's the correct one, and that is. So I found where that string was coming from, and what I want to do, and now I made this really short. I should have made it longer. I just tie this down in a knot. Yeah, this is so short to try and tie a knot. But do your best to tie them off on the back. So any loose strings that you've cut, do your best to tie all those off on the back so that it doesn't affect any of the beadwork that you don't want to rip out. I'm not even going to try and knot that. That is not going well. It's way too short. If you're in a situation like this where you cut it way too short like I did, you can snip it down and you can singe it. literally the only lighter I could find, and I don't even know why I bought this, is this like torch. So this is nylon thread. Nylon thread melts. So preferably don't use a torch. I just couldn't find a regular lighter. You can singe that down and it'll melt right on there. That way, if it's attached to like this portion's not gonna become loose. So that's all you do. That's it. You basically just rip out. Ooh, see, I'm gonna make it short again. I'm gonna try to make these longer on the back, make it easier for myself. Oh, and you wanna know what? You can actually see here what happens to the paper underneath. I feel like that's one of my most often asked questions is what happens to this paper underneath? Now, I beaded this like, oh geez, this must be like 7 years old. This is beadwork from long ago, and you can see that the paper is still under there. It is getting really soft. Like it's kind of disintegrating under there, but it just stays under there. You just bead over the top of it. So yeah, that's all you do. You rip out the section that you don't want anymore, and you tie the strings off in the back. That's it. It is super easy. So if you feel like, ooh, that was easy. That whole row came off. Did you see that? That was kind of satisfying. Let me try that again. So let me see if I can grab this string from underneath. Look at this whole row. I'm gonna come off maybe. Yes, satisfying. Okay, so I've got all of these loose strings that I wanna find back here and attempt to tie as many of them off as I can. Say I made a boo-boo and I cut a string too short that is attached to something that I want to stay beaded. What you can do is you can reinforce it with some thread. So thread up a needle and go through a few of those old, you know what I mean? Okay. I am not totally set up here to show you this. This is attached to something, but I would come up from underneath. Can you see that? I would go through, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 beads like this. You see that? Go through and then go underneath just to reinforce it. And then I would tie that new thread off just so it's reinforced. It's not going to go anywhere. Even though its old string got ripped up, it's still going to be tacked down. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Just bead over it. All right. If you guys have any suggestions for tutorials, I am open to suggestion. Hope you guys are having a great day. Talk to you later.